Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Monday the 28th of June 2021 and we're looking at the prospect of Russia raising interest rates in July and whether this will add additional pressure to the United States to become less accommodative in terms of monetary policy and what effect this could have on gold and silver prices, at least in the short term. So let's take a look. Well, it does seem that there's no stopping us here at Illuminati Silver this wonderful Monday, as we've already produced two videos, normal morning update, gold and silver price update, and we've also produced a video just a couple hours ago, India buying crypto rather than gold. Why? Where we highlight that certainly, shall we use the word millennials, are starting now to purchase cryptocurrencies at a rapid rate rather than their older relatives who still seem reasonably entrenched in gold and silver. But what struck us today is the Bank of Russia considering rate increases of up to 1 percentage point, published by Bloomberg literally just over an hour ago. Now, we're raising this because those who listened to our videos on Saturday, No More Financial Support, plus our weekly update, we commented on the fact that the Federal Reserve is facing a dilemma. It has rising inflation, considerably rising inflation, but finds itself in a sort of, shall we say, neck brace, whereby if they do raise interest rates, it could cause the equity markets to plummet. And we saw just over a week and a half ago how the equity markets responded on the FOMC announcement, which, believe it or not, was a week last Wednesday, where Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, actually suggested that the tapering of its bond buying might come sooner rather than expected, and interest rates could rise twice in 2023, and possibly, according to some governors, in favour of the interest rates rising in 2022, at least once. And we've pointed out, however, that although the markets regarded this as rather hawkish, when you compare to what's happening in the United Kingdom and some other countries across the globe, some have already started raising interest rates. The United Kingdom is threatening the prospect, certainly, of its tapering coming in because it could not justify inflation well above 2%. But remember, America is surviving at the moment on arguably 5% inflation, moving down to 3.5%, which is almost still double to what its original target is. So we came across then this morning this Bank of Russia considers rate increase, and we thought we would perhaps cover that here and now. We'll read this and just comment upon it, because it does suggest that regardless of what America's doing at the moment, the rest of the world is perhaps adopting a slightly different stance. The Bank of Russia is ready to consider a key interest rate increase of 25 basis points to 1 percentage point in July. So that's literally days away, in response to surging inflation. Governor Elvira Nabiullina told Bloomberg TV in an interview, "We don't see that inflation acceleration is transitory," and this was that wonderful word that the Fed Chair Jerome Powell has used, as in many other countries, but more persistent. Central bank aims to react fast, but predictably on rates, she said, adding that current policy remains accommodative. Russia's central bank has turned hawkish as it struggles to control inflation that recently jumped above 6% for the first time in more than 4 years, well beyond the 4% target. So they've already set a double target compared to the United States, and they're already well above it. Policymakers have increased interest rates by 125 basis points since March and warned that more monetary tightening will be necessary to curb price pressures and restrain inflation expectations. Still, the pace of increases in Russia lags that of its emerging market peer, Brazil. where policymakers have been lifting their key rate by 75 basis points at a time. So far, inflation data do not show that it's easing, Nabiullina said. There is no trend for inflation acceleration now, but no significant trend for it slowing either. She emphasised the monetary policy should be the main tool for fighting inflation after the government responded to a spike in global commodity prices by imposing duties, export curbs and price controls. The central bank will revise up its end-of-year inflation forecast and, most likely, its average key rate forecast at the July 23rd meeting, she said. Russia's recent spike in COVID-19 cases and introduction of new restrictions to contain the spread of infections may affect the economy, the governor said. It's one of the factors of uncertainty that could influence our estimates. Now, of course, the last thing you want if your economy is starting to close down again because they're locking down due to COVID-19, the last thing you want to do is raise interest rates. At the same time, if you don't raise them, then inflation could potentially get out of control. It's an interesting scenario. The ruble initially strengthened after Nabiullina's rates comment before declining by 0.2% against the dollar to 72.2150 as of 3:46 p.m. in Moscow, trading within a narrow range. We are ready to take steps that will let inflation return to 4%, Nabiullina said. We want to do it in a predictable way and with the least amount of surprises for the market. Now, we have to admit that the Russian economy is somewhat different to the United States economy, which is different to a degree to the UK economy. And of course, the Russian ruble is arguably nowhere near as strong as the US dollar. Now, I know a lot of people will criticize that comment because they'll say, well, the US dollar's not strong, but in relative terms, compared to most other fiat currencies, it actually is doing quite well, which is why the dollar index is still hovering above the 90 level, and at the moment is just over 91. Of course, they have their own, Russia has its own individual problems to overcome, and it has to offer slightly higher interest rates if it's going to attract investment in the Russian ruble. What's going to be interesting, and we found this out with India, what's going to be interesting is if cryptocurrencies start to take hold in Russia. Very interesting to see then how the government really deals with that. It's already started, and we should be monitoring very closely the establishment's reaction to it. We are now beginning to find a growing number of countries already embarking on increasing rates or seriously considering it. We all know that as far as the US is concerned, and to a degree the UK, but not to the same extent, rates cannot go too high. But nevertheless, they will be under pressure at some stage in the not too distant future to at least cut back on its bond buying program. And then we will have to see to what effect that will have on markets and also precious metal prices, which at the moment are in a downtrend, albeit only a slight one so far. Let's wait and see how it develops, and we'll be hopefully one of the first to comment upon it. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to our channel, hopefully give us a thumbs up and press the bell sign. Do share your comments on what you think the effect of Russia raising interest rates would be and how soon you think the US and the Western world, we know Europe is likely to lag the US because of comments already made in terms of them continuing with its very, very dovish QE program. Let us know your thoughts. We've placed a link below to the videos that we mentioned at the start of this, which we've published in the last few days. And before we go, we have been asked what's happening to the Richard and Greg channel. We have to say Greg was diverted somewhat in helping an elderly neighbour, but then he's been ill for a short time. So we shall be resuming the Richard and Greg channel shortly with a few changes which listeners and subscribers will find of interest. So bear with us just a couple of days so that we can actually update the channel accordingly. And a final reminder, you will find in the description box below our earlier video entitled India Buying Cryptos Rather Than Gold and Silver Why, plus our gold and silver morning update showing slight pressure on gold and silver prices, and also the video produced yesterday Are equities on the verge of collapse? And prior to that, no more financial support, highlighting central banks may very well be pulling back. And of course, our weekly gold and silver update. Disclaimer. Illuminati silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.